The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
This is a reading from the Good News according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. If he comes during the middle of the night or near dawn and finds them so, blessed are those slaves. But know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
As I said, beginning of Mass, I'd like to read the Uluru Statement from the Heart, the statement that the First Nations people here in Australia are putting to Parliament at the moment. And just to repeat myself, this is a matter of some political urgency at the moment, but it's not that motivates me and a few others here to read it today. It's simply that I think that it's up to us as a non-Indigenous group, and I think I can probably say that pretty confidently, to listen to people. For two reasons. Firstly, tomorrow is the feast of Mary MacKillop. And I'm not sure that we haven't got a model here in our Australian church, and our first Australian saint, who listened to those people on the edges, on the margins, the children of people in outback South Australia, people who perhaps were represented by Indigenous Australians. And she sort of predicted a statement that was made in the 1960s in the Vatican Council, which I'd just like to read to you as a context of this statement that we'll read in a moment. It was a statement that was the preface of one of the most interesting documents of the Second Vatican Council, the Constitution of the Church in the Modern World. It's familiar to you, but let me read it again. The joys and hopes, the griefs and the anxieties of the people of this age, and especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted, these are the joys and hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the followers of Christ. Pope Francis is in Canada at the moment. No, I think he's gone home, but he's just been in Canada speaking to the Indigenous people of Canada. He even used the word in a later press conference that there was a genocide of those First Nations people. We don't use that language here, but there's a whole range of attitudes to the history of Australia that are similar to a colonising group in Canada. So with the example of Pope Francis, I'd like to invite Bob and Rosalind Bradley to come forward to read this statement for us. It'll take about 3 or 4 minutes to read. Let's come up there. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Bob. Yesterday I had a heavy cold and I thought, oh my goodness, am I getting COVID again? I went racing around getting tests and I might cough, but I promise I'll be tested by the best medical expert who say I'm negative. I thought that was a put down, don't you? They said, that's good. Thank you.
We gathered at the 2017 National Constitutional Convention, coming from all points of the southern sky, make this statement from the heart. Our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes were the first sovereign nations of the Australian continent and its adjacent islands, and possessed it under our own laws and customs.
This our ancestors did, according to the reckoning of our culture, from the creation, according to the common law from time immemorial, and according to science more than 60,000 years ago.
This sovereignty is a spiritual notion, the ancestral tie between the land, or Mother Nature, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are born therefrom, remain attached thereto, and must one day return thither to be united with our ancestors. This link is the basis of the ownership of the soil, or better, of sovereignty. It has never been ceded or extinguished and coexists with the sovereignty of the Crown. How could it be otherwise? That peoples possessed a land for 60 millennia, and this sacred link disappears from the world history in merely the last 200 years.
With substantive constitutional change and structural reform, we believe this ancient sovereignty can shine through as a fuller expression of Australia's nationhood.
Proportionally, we are the most incarcerated people on the planet. We are not an innately criminal people. Our children are alienated from their families at unprecedented rates. This cannot be because we have no love for them, and our youth languish in detention in obscene numbers. They should be our hope for the future.
These dimensions of our crisis tell plainly the structural nature of our problem. This is the torment of our powerlessness. We seek constitutional reforms to empower our people and take a rightful place in our own country. When we have power over our destiny, our children will flourish. They will walk in two worlds, and their culture will be a gift to their country.
We call for the establishment of a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution.
Makarrata is the culmination of our agenda, the coming together after a struggle. It captures our aspirations for a fair and truthful relationship with the people of Australia and a better future for our children, based on justice and self-determination.
We seek a Makarrata Commission to supervise a process of agreement making between governments and First Nations and truth-telling about our history.
In 1967, we were counted. In 2017, we seek to be heard. We leave base camp and start our trek across this vast country.
We invite you to walk with us in a movement of the Australian people for a better future.
Bob. Thank you, Ros. That has many implications, of course. There's a referendum that is promised. There's a constitutional change that is requested. And I'd like to put those aside just for a moment and focus upon what I've just said. I think our first task, particularly in the spirit of this remarkable woman, Mary McKelvey, is to listen. Listen to the voice of marginalised people. If I could perhaps categorise our First Nations people as marginalised. Our task is to listen as a Christian community and as any adult Christian. So thank you for that reading. May I encourage you to find the document yourself. Treat it with it's a beautifully poetic statement, by the way. Read it and ask yourself the question, how important is this voice to my life? Let's stand for our final, our first.